Once upon a time, there was a man called Aristocles, a name which means the best of glory, from the ancient Greek Aristos, best, and Kleos, glory. It is said that he established the first institution of higher learning in the Western world. To him could be traced three aesthetic theories of art, most commonly referred to as imitationalism, formalism, and emotionalism. In the Republic, Plato, the name by which he is commonly known, says that art imitates the objects and events of ordinary life. In other words, a work of art is a copy of a form. It is even more of an illusion than is ordinary experience. On this theory, works of art are at best entertainment, and according to Plato, at worst, dangerous delusion. By contrast, African art often stems from the themes of religious symbolism, and African art is created not just to please the eye, but also to uphold religious values. In this Jamaica Caribbean region, our dynamic way of being, represented in the art produced by the people, is a result of the clash of Western and African cultures in which something is lost, something is gained, and something new emerges. Part of our evolution is in our willingness to constantly think about, theorize about, and stretch the limits of what we do, why we do it, how we think about it, how it affects our being, so that we may continue, according to Marcus Garvey, to astound the world. In so doing, we return again and again to the fire which inspired those who came before us, and the ways in which that fire has propelled us towards our given endeavors. Sometimes we find new ways in which we must reignite those fires so that they may forever blaze and produce for future generations the guiding light that we have enjoyed. Edna Manley may well be regarded as source, instigator, and product of that to which we are acknowledging we need to always return, releasing heat as well as illumination. That is in part what Founders Week 2021 at this institution which bears her name is all about. It is therefore fitting that this activity at the beginning of March, the month in which we celebrate International Women's Day, we should return to the ideas of the woman so often referred to as the mother of Jamaican art, to review that which has emerged as her theory of art, and which has been reposed in her treasured written collections. We will hear some of those ideas today as the Edna Manley Foundation makes its mark on our Founders Week. The Honorable Marigold Hardin, Chairman of the Board of Management, sends her best wishes to this event and regrets that she's not able to be physically present with us. I would now like to read her greetings. Members of the Board of Management of the Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts, acting principal, and all members of senior and middle management, all staff and students of the college, let us acknowledge how special it is and how fortunate we all are that today we are in the company of one of our principal stakeholders, who have chosen the time set aside for remembering and honoring our founders to present us with the letters, books, and other archival materials of Edna Manley. I congratulate the Edna Manley Foundation on the vision which it has attached to this gesture. Every consideration that looks towards the future and sees the potential of the college for growing into a center of excellence for research in the arts is to be saluted. Indeed, there are many lessons to be learned here about the nature of the relationships that we can and must engineer with our stakeholders and sponsors. It fills me with sheer delight that I will be able to sit in the library at this Edward Seaga Resource Center and get a peek into the thoughts and aspirations which Edna Manley placed in her writings and which up until now few have had the privilege to access. Now the entire college must devise creative and innovative marketing and promotion strategies to ensure that this is not a closely guarded secret. In fact, we should earmark special days during each academic year as the Special Collections Days so that everyone may come and be inspired with the content that motivated, intrigued, and interested our best artistic minds. If today's activity is any indication of what we can expect of Founders Week 2021, I think it is going to be a great one. My deepest appreciation to everyone involved in the planning and implementation. And as always, God bless you. God bless the Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts. Our beloved Miss Hope Brooks, a former student and lecturer, a valued and valuable member of the Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts, has also been an up-close and personal admirer, learning from her encounters with Edna Manley. She has been with the Edna Manley Foundation for a long time, and I would just like us to remember that the foundation was established shortly after the passing of Edna Manley herself. I am anticipating Miss Brooks's introduction to the collection as much as I anticipate a reading from the collection from Miss Abena Shavans, our production coordinator here at the Edna Manley College.
Thank you, Dr. Blackwood Meeks. Greetings all. Professor of History at the UWI, the late Stuart Hall, had this to say about archives. An archive is a conversation between the present and the past. It will bring the past alive, will make it human, put a face to it, put bodies to it, put places to it, put clothes to it. Those comments, I believe, are very fitting for the archive being established today. The idea of an Edna Manley archive was the brainchild of Dr. David Boxer during his tenure as chairman of the Edna Manley Foundation board. It first appeared in the minutes of the board dated June 17, 2013. The entry reads, "A small bag containing papers and photographs was tabled for inspection. The material was believed to be photographs and slides for Easton Lee's book on Edna Manley. It was decided that the material was valuable and should be kept with the Edna Manley archives." Close quotation. Then, in the minutes of January 21, 2014, it was reported that further to the matter of archiving Edna Manley Foundation's material, a letter had been sent to the principal, Dr. DeGrasse Johnson, who suggested that a meeting between the college librarian, Miss Erica Davis, and the foundation be convened so as to locate a suitable space for the needs and purposes as outlined. The collection being presented today is a small one, but it is a unique one and gives a many and valuable perspective to the life of the Honorable Edna Manley, the person for whom it is named and who has contributed so much to this country. The archive has 3 collections. First, as mentioned earlier, there is the Easton Lee collection, and there is the David Boxer collection, and lastly, the Edna Manley Foundation book collection. Most people will know the Reverend Easton Lee from his years in broadcasting and theater. What may not be so well known is that he was a great friend of Edna Manley and had compiled a photographic record of both her public and private life that he was planning to publish in a book. Unfortunately, the book never materialized, and the Easton Lee collection of photographs and slides that was handed over to the Edna Manley Foundation before the late Reverend departed Jamaica has, he was domiciled in Miami, has some outstanding photographs of Edna Manley. A particularly beautiful one on display here today is a photograph of Edna Manley's hands, taken by Dr. Owen Minot while she was working in her studio at age 82. Also in the Easton Lee collection are letters written by Edna Manley to Easton and his wife Jean, but also a collection of letters addressed to a June Gervin, who apparently was herself preparing to publish a book on Edna Manley. In one of these letters, Edna Manley speaks about what she calls her theory of art. It is only a paragraph, but in my view, it is a gem. The poetic ideas expressed are very moving and takes the reader down an unexpected path. Even more mysterious is the inclusion of a perfect little drawing of a goat. Why she included this drawing, we do not know, but it is a little masterpiece in its simplicity and perfection. Sadly, I have to say, we only have a photocopy of this letter, and where the original is, we do not know, nor do we know who it was meant for it is not addressed. But I'm glad it has survived in some form. That letter, My Theory of Art, will be read later in the program. Before his death in 2017, Dr. David Boxer, who, as we know, wrote the monograph on Edna Manley's sculptor, handed me a file of over 100 letters written to him by Edna Manley during the years of their friendship in the late 70s and 80s. And he said to me, I'm giving these to the Edna Manley archives to be kept there when it is established in the library of the college. That was his wish. These letters reveal Edna Manley the person, the artist, and also as someone at the heart of political change in Jamaica. She writes about historic events of the day from the point of view of an eyewitness. She writes about technical challenges with her work, her ideas, and she writes just as a friend. In one letter she says, and I open quotes, "And then the great day came, 1938. A group of us were jam-packed in a truck in the middle of a vast crowd. We were waiting for Bustamante to be released, and coming with him was Norman, who had fought such a fight for his release." And in another she writes, "David dear." She always addressed him as David dear, or just dear. "I am sorry you are ill. Do take care. Don't go back to work too soon." Or, "David, Yesterday was a lovely evening. Or still yet, when he provided her with much needed funds. Thank you. I don't know how you do it, but it is well needed. Her concept for Negro Aroused is explained in one fairly lengthy letter that starts with the intriguing words, I have never really known just how Negro Aroused was born in 1935. But I know that the fact that I had been able to do it gave me a new sort of confidence. Close quotations. Edna Manley never dated her letters, and we have no sequence for them. This could be a project, possibly for someone from this college. Putting them in context, and if possible, giving them some sequence, and lastly, I think, publishing them. Then there is a small collection of books that form part of the archive. These books are varied in subject and content, with titles such as Picturing the Post-Colonial Nation, Internationalism in the Art of Jamaica, 1962 to 1975, by Claudia Hook. Caribbean, Art at the Crossroads of the World, El Museo del Barrio, New York, in association with Yale University Press. Modernism, the Visual and Caribbean Literature, Cambridge University Press. Working Against the Grain, Women Sculptors in Britain, circa 1885 to 1950, Liverpool University Press. These books all have one thing in common. The authors requested permission to use images of Edna Manley's work on the cover, in the copy, or as a frontispiece of the book. Negro Aroused is the image that is most often requested. This makes it arguably the most famous piece of Jamaican art that there is. The wood carving done to express the political awakening of the Jamaican worker and its more imposing bronze version done many years later. I often wonder if that new sort of confidence spoken of by Edna Manley is what it still communicates to people today, 80 years after it was created. The Edna Manley Archive has been through a great deal of discussion in the 8 years since the foundation began thinking about this project. I'm happy that today, on March 1st, Edna Manley's birthday, we are handing over this collection of books, letters, and photographs to formally establish the Edna Manley Archive in the Edward Seaga Library and Resource Center at the Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts. In years to come, I hope the archive will grow and that others will contribute to building this archive in Edna Manley's memory here at the Edna Manley College, one of her great legacies to this country. Thank you.
After the explosion of 1938, when people who up to then had seen the arts through European eyes, now for the first time began looking at things through black eyes. I have stolen that phrase from George Lamming because it so vividly sums up the tremendous change that was taking place when people for the first time could identify themselves with the images that were appearing in the arts. Take poetry, for example, when George Campbell writes in 1938, "Say my skin is beautiful, black as the darkness of a weeping night." When in painting, Albert Huey for the first time brings us face to face with the beauty of a strong, young peasant girl, when I myself had already carved Negro Aroused and the Prophet in 1936 to 37. After that, as I say, where did we go from there? Public opinion and focus were publishing so the writers had an outlet and medium, but the fine arts needed and were reaching out for a technique in order to be able to just express themselves. So the Institute art classes started, and we were crowded out, and we knew that a fully fledged art school was a major must, for we had to train our own teachers so that we could we could free ourselves from the English teaching that had dominated us for centuries. To take a leap into the contemporary scene is a long jump. So many new influences and sources of inspiration have made us what we are becoming today. Perhaps the most powerful of all is a dive we have taken back into our African roots. It not only shows in the arts, it is here in the society, in the influence of African clothing, the recognition that black is indeed beautiful, the African hairstyles, the turbans, the changing of English to African names, the long cotton robes and kaftans. By now, theater has come to life through the form of the English pantomime and has grown into what has become an institution in our national life, the Xmas musical. On the one hand, we have that, and the other, the little experimental theaters like the band theater, where to small, enthusiastic audiences, new plays can be tried and produced. The dance, now frankly and purely creative based and growing out of our folk life of the Kumina, Mayal, Pukumina, develops a dance movement which grows each year more and more original. Yes, dance, perhaps the most vivid and dynamic of all our arts, and quietly becoming known outside of your own shores. Music, starting long ago from slavery days with the mento and the protest songs, and a little later, the church choirs, has now mushroomed out into a new world based on reggae. Our pop singers, with their love and their protest, are now known all over the world and are selling records of songs written and sung by themselves, selling in the millions. All this reflected in the fine arts, where landscape, portraits, figure, compositions, scenes from every day are being influenced by international trends. Abstract art has come and exploded the myth that realism is all important. Symbolism, expressing a release from the deep consciousness of a restless, probing, and not always happy people, appears. The primitives, for want of a better name, originally ignored or treated with a superior patronage, now begin to move forward into priority place and superior, and throughout all the arts, music, theater, dance, as well as the fine arts, is a powerful release of Rastafarianism. For make no mistake, it's the Rastafari who has affected our speech and clothes, our manners, and would if they could change our whole way of life. I have no doubt that Jamaica will contain and absorb him. But the movement, the faith, call it what you will, has released something that will have a lasting influence. But to return to the art movement as a whole, perhaps the most imaginative steps of growth we have yet taken is contained in the Cultural Training Center, where all the arts meet and are housed in the large compound. It is imaginative because once you have taken the steps, it is up to the future to show how the arts can stimulate each other in a place, I repeat, where all the arts meet. We shall see. But I, for one, have great faith that in the contact, and I believe it offers a challenge that for us, at any rate, is unique. So we move on slowly. It is true, but fighting all the way. If only we can keep our roots firm as we now begin to face the world. I have great hopes for the future, but society must allow us our freedom to experiment, to change in a changing world, to find the inspiration in world trends, not necessarily Jamaican, but asking us one great validity, that we are totally and honestly being ourselves. To be yourself. This is a great democracy in which arts will flourish, and if we accept that challenge, we will create an art for all time and all place. This is my simple creed. I have carried it all my life, and I believe that it is shared by all those who are in leading position in all the arts in Jamaica. To be free of yourself, accepting a life of endless self-discipline, endless toil, even of hardship as you learn to express yourself to yourself and to the world. It is a great life, and as well as all this, it can, thank God, be also great fun.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Ladies and gentlemen, permit me to invite to join me at the lectern Mr. Joseph Matalan. Mr. Matalan, I would like you to support me in my hope that our students will over time come to accept the value of the philosophical positions of the founders of the college. Would you join me here, please? I'm also going to ask our acting principal, Dr. Trudy Ann Barrett, to join us as well. It seems as if we're having a little wedding ceremony, because this part of the activity certainly will mark a high point in the relationship between the Edna Manley College and the Edna Manley Foundation. The presentation of the Edna Manley collection to the college is an act which will be undertaken by the brand new chairman of the Edna Manley Foundation, himself an entrepreneurial collector, Mr. Joseph Matalan, and he will undertake this responsibility by making the handover to our acting principal, Dr. Trudy Ann Barrett, supported by Ms. Hope Brooks.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Madame Orator, or is it Oratress? On behalf of the Edna Manley Foundation, we are pleased to hand over to the Edna Manley School for Safekeeping in the Archives the Edna Manley Foundation's collection of correspondence with Edna Manley, including the letters between David Boxer and herself, and several letters and notes with Easton Lee and June Gervin, both of whom intended to write on Edna Manley, along with other memorabilia. As we are all aware, these are difficult times to raise funds for art and artists, not only as a result of the current pandemic, but because of other more pressing needs for survival through education and the establishment of a basic minimal standard of living in Jamaica for all Jamaicans. Individuals who can afford rarely participate in the acquisition of fine Jamaican works any longer, and there is a general depression in the arts market. Sadly so. It is particularly difficult for the foundation to fundraise. It is the hope and ambition that the Edna Manley Foundation will one day be able to have a permanent memorial to Edna Manley and a permanent home for all of her memorabilia in a museum of such designated specifically to Edna Manley. In anticipation of these documents and in anticipation of that, and this probably is not going to be in my lifetime or yours, but in anticipation of that, these documents and photographs are on loan to the School of Art until such time as that dream can be realized. On behalf of the Edna Manley Foundation, I extend our appreciation to the school, the work they have done, and wish you all well. Thank you very much.
the Honorable Marigold Harding and other members of the Board of Management, Mr. Joseph Matalon and other members of the Edna Manley Foundation, members of the senior middle management, staff, students, a very good afternoon to you. The pleasure is indeed mine to accept this wonderful collection of books and letters and memorabilia from the Edna Manley Foundation on behalf of the EMCVPA family. We're honored to share in this moment that is intended to honor and memorialize the seminal contributions of Edna Manley to the development of Jamaican art and culture. It is fitting to mark this occasion by paying homage to the fire that ignited her contributions and to unearth the contents of letters that were germane to her vision to the development of the Cultural Training Center. Inherent in this gesture is an affirmation of the college's commitment toward reigniting her fire and furthering the legacy that she has gifted us. In so doing, we mark the past, the present, and the future in one breath, invoking through this gesture our mission to continue to enrich the aesthetic sensibilities and promote the cultural diversity of the Caribbean through the highest quality education and training in the visual and performing arts. It is hoped that the insights provided into Edna Manley, the woman, the artist, the philosopher, through today's activities as well as the collection, will enable a deeper understanding of the philosophical underpinnings of her work and engender a greater appreciation for the ways that these have translated into our present reality. Thanks again, Edna Manley Foundation, for enriching the repository and collection of the Edward Siaga Library and Resource Center. We look forward to our continued partnership.
In spite of the cliche, we know that this gift is a gift that will keep on giving. We know that a great deal of work went into the curating and the packaging, as well as the selection of the pieces that we have heard this afternoon. We also know that many hands make light work. And so there are many people who work behind the scenes whose names we are not able to call all on this occasion, but whose contribution we acknowledge. We can't thank enough the Edna Manley Foundation for opening this door to knowing. It is indeed true that once you know, you cannot go back to unknowing. So we thank everyone who has opened this door to this wider knowledge of the theory of art, both here in Jamaica and those who will access it throughout the region and indeed from the rest of the world. We are reminded that at times our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us and before us. It is therefore fitting that the last words we hear on this occasion of the handing over ceremony, which opens a door to understanding Edna Manley's theory of art, should be the words of Edna Manley herself. We're going to invite our Vice Principal, Carrie Ann Henry, the fiery Vice Principal, who moved her way up from dance and who might be dancing on this occasion to deliver to us the last words. Thank you all very much.
You ask me my theory of art. I haven't one. All I know is that man's with grief, with joy, with a sense of illumination and its bedfellow, a sense of loss. If I lose my child, I go to the temple for comfort. What comprises the temple for me is the place or awareness of a feeling of comfort, of understanding, a place where man has staked his emotional circle and where he will meet for all mankind the holy place, where all he suffers, some other mind has expressed and shares.